Listen up or run for cover. Dropping knowledge from the people who have it to the people who need it. The real Brent Lee is dropping
What it is, Brad Lee back again with another episode of Dropping Bombs. Today in the studio, folks, I got a real treat for you. As you know, I'm famous for bringing you the treats, and today is no different. I have got Brent Gleeson, who's the founder and CEO of Taking Point. He's also the best-selling author of the book Taking Point. He's also a former Navy SEAL who basically leveraged what he learned as a SEAL into business and started kicking so much ass. Everybody started asking him how to kick that much ass. So then he started basically consulting other people how to kick ass. I assume using the fundamental techniques and things learned, the disciplines of being a Navy SEAL. And now he's here to drop bombs on your ass. Welcome, Brent.
How's it going, brother? Good to be here.
Dude, I'm glad you're here, man. I tell you, I was surprised that you had time to do this, only because where do you live?
Rancho Santa Fe.
Yeah. I thought you were in Miami, bro.
Oh, no.
Oh, well, now you got a little time in Rancho Santa Fe.
That's where we last saw each other.
So what's happening?
Everything's good, brother. Just doing some pivoting on the business battlefield, but otherwise pretty much crushing it and really setting the business and family up for some good things to come over the next few months.
Hey, just before anybody gets too deep into this episode, make sure that you guys go pre-order his book, Embrace the Suck, which releases December 22nd. If everybody on the Bomb Squad goes and gets this book, you're going to help them shoot up the ranks as a bestseller. Not only that, then end up on all these lists and sell him even a ton more books. So
there you go.
If you're in the Bomb Squad, and I'm talking about a real Bomb Squad member, do me a favor, go get his book. So Brent, let me ask you, do you basically, learned everything as a Navy SEAL and then started applying it into business? What are some of the things that like everyone in the world should do that, is very rare to see? Like
Sure.
Obvious common sense, but no one does it.
Sure. Quick bit of backstory there to kind of, build momentum on the conversation is, I initially had not had a lifelong vision of becoming a SEAL or really even military service. One of my buddies from undergrad actually kind of talked me into the idea. So I followed him on that journey after working in finance for a year there in downtown Dallas. And went through Bud's Class 235. 9/11 kicked off right in the beginning of the advanced portion of that pipeline, which obviously had a significant transformative effect on the special operations community, the military in general, and everybody who has served and is serving. So a bit of a culture shift within the organization, also a mindset shift from going from peacetime SEALs to wartime SEALs very quickly. Did several combat deployments, had not planned on doing it as a career. Obviously, had some very interesting experiences, in combat, obviously in training. Stuck to the plan, transitioned out, went to graduate school, and have since built a series of businesses, built and sold 2 companies, more in the technology space. But what I really found wasn't necessarily a passion for the industries those businesses were in, but a passion for many of the leadership and culture principles of high-performing teams that you experience in a community such as naval special warfare, applying that in combat, and then taking many of those disciplines, principles, mindsets, and behavioral norms into building high performance in the world of business. So basically, reestablishing better people practices, designing an organization's culture that is meant to achieve a specific desired outcome, understanding how accountability and trust impact an organization's growth and profitability as the 2 most important culture pillars of any high-performing organization. That applies in special operations, it applies in business. But the interesting thing about the world of business and entrepreneurship, as you know, is all these leadership and behavioral fundamentals have a direct and measurable impact on the growth of an organization. So it's many of those things. I know we'll get into some of them, but many of those fundamentals around personal discipline, around mindset, around accountability, both at the individual and team level, and the philosophy of leadership at all levels. So leadership as a behavioral expectation of yourself and others, regardless of rank or tenure. The Naval Special Warfare community is a very flat organization where we decentralize decision making, and not as easy to replicate in an impactful way in the civilian world, but because there has to be frameworks and a culture that allows for more autonomy in decision making. But those are just some of the fundamentals that have seemed to apply. Obviously, they don't apply directly in the civilian workforce and some of the younger generations. We have to, as leaders, understand, what really motivates every single individual. And now, of course, with 2020, there's new layers of complexity as it relates to leading and managing remote teams and understanding, how to even apply, emotional intelligence and empathy in getting as much as we can from our people.
Well, I can tell you just said a mouthful. Now, leadership as a word in today's day and age could mean anything. And a lot of people, hear this word leadership,
right?
But when you, like, for example, if I said I'm going to train my team on sales, I should expect to get a 20% return on my investment by simply improving sales, at least temporarily, by investing in that individual or that knowledge. Now, leadership, I think, okay, well, that would go to the executives, that would go to the management. It wouldn't just go to everybody. But I believe that technically, if you're leading anybody, even your family, you're technically a leader. So is that
right?
The people that need leadership training?
Right. We all have the opportunity to lead in all aspects of our life, from the time we're young, to the time this short life ends, whether that be in your work, your career, to your point, your family, as a parent, as a spouse, as a mentor to others, in business, or even in, philanthropy and nonprofit opportunities. It really comes down to having a passion and an emotional connection to a vision of what you're trying to accomplish. If you can authentically embody that yourself first, then you have the opportunity to be able to effectively communicate what that vision is, what the goal is, and in a best case scenario, provide certain frameworks and parameters of how to get there, but then allow that team to innovate and to execute and to course correct as needed to achieve that goal, because that accomplishes buy-in. It accomplishes, gives them the opportunity to be passionate about that goal as well. And not everything we do in business is sexy and things that we're always going to be motivated to get behind. But as a leader, it's our job to communicate a vision effectively, to build a team culture that is designed to achieve a desired result, be it a business result, sales result, profit goal, what have you. That's where oftentimes, leaders in business, even the most well-intentioned leaders oftentimes do many of those activities in silos. We know we have to, create a great culture. We'll get into that in a minute, because that too could mean a lot of different things. We have to be an effective leader. There's two types of leaders. You're either effective or ineffective. You're either helping the team achieve a specific goal and desired outcome, or you're falling short. And the best leaders I know are also lifelong learners. They're never satisfied with the status quo. They're always looking to reinvent themselves, and therefore they have a certain mindset and level of discipline that's infectious to others. So leadership is very much behavioral. It's less about what we say, but more about what we do.
Dude, do you think you can be friends with a perfect running team and a perfect running culture?
Yeah, I definitely think that there is a need for camaraderie and friendship within teams. I mean, if you look at certain like engagement surveys that we work with our clients on to understand what their level of engagement of their employees are, one of those questions is, do you have someone you would consider to be a close friend at work? That's not my favorite question. I usually toss that one out. But
well, the reason why is
yeah.
because, like, dude, sometimes to hold people accountable, which I think is required in a good culture, right? You want accountability, you want boundaries, you want opposition, and most times I find whenever I'm building a team, if I get to be too friendly, like we're hanging out now, we're buddies, well, then it's harder to be, more strict and or hold people accountable because they're your buddy now.
Right.
And a lot of people that are out there building businesses, they end up bringing in their buddies, they end up bringing in their friends, they end up bringing in their family members, and then their culture sucks because of that closeness. Like, in other words, dude, we're buddies, you're not going to hold me accountable. That's what I mean. So you think friendship, like technically in a perfect running team, should be to the side?
I mean, you said it well. There's a fine line there. There's some barriers that should not be crossed. Obviously, take it back to, the SEAL teams, for example. You are friends with those guys. You're living together. You're fighting together. You're going through some of the most brutal military training known to man. Obviously, that's going to create a bond. Now, out here,
but that's a lifestyle.
That's different. That's
a lifestyle.
Exactly.
Like that's not necessarily a job. Like you could be friends with the NBA team you're on and or a Navy SEAL team. And I got more questions about being a Navy SEAL. Like when you went through BUDS training, dude, you know that was hard as hell. Tell people a little bit about it in case they don't understand. Like that, they make you like shiver cold and lay in sand and like they're there to mentally break you down, are they not?
They are, and I actually saw an interesting video put out by, I think, the NSW community. We're trying to be more thoughtful in how we market and our talent acquisition strategies. And, the video was talking about how, the guys coming in these days, there's enough online resources and mentorship programs and strength training programs. They come in fit, more fit than we've ever seen. They can do all the running, the swimming, the push-ups, pull-ups, sit-ups, but it's not really about that. It never has really been about that. Sure, intellect and fitness are critical. And I'll talk to you a bit about my preparation process going into this. Obviously, I did a lot of research, as much as I could possibly find. I read all the books that I could find. But one of the things that, is sort of the bedrock of developing a growth mindset and resilience is to focus on what's in your immediate control, just like achieving any goal or navigating adversity. And we oftentimes spend a lot of time, energy, and emotion worrying about things that are outside of our control. So going into SEAL training, which again, arguably one of, if not the most challenging special operations training and selection pipeline known to man, obviously preparation was key. You can have a good plan, but preparation is going to trump that every single time. So my process was to develop mind and body as much as I possibly could to become as fit as I possibly could. I trained with a buddy of mine from college for a year. Then I actually quit my job and he and I moved up to Crested Butte, Colorado, where we trained for another 6 months at high altitude to get as fit as we possibly could, focusing, on what's in our control. I wanted fitness to be the last possible thing I had to worry about. There are all these other external factors and internal factors and emotions.
Yeah, like freezing your ass off.
Yeah. And
so
the pipeline's well over a year. Well, the pipeline's well over a year. You start with BUDS. BUDS is the first 6 months of that long training pipeline. It's an acronym, stands for Basic Underwater Demolition SEAL. Usually when you see, videos or Discovery Channel documentaries, they're showing things from BUDS. BUDS is 6 months. It's 3 phases, first, second, and third phase. First phase is, they call it physical training, but it's really where you're getting your ass kicked every single day. Usually the 4th or 5th week, it changes every now and then, but the 4th or 5th week will be Hell Week. So you'll usually lose half your class just going into Hell Week, and I'll explain Hell Week in a second. And then you'll lose most of the people that you're going to lose or that will quit or get injured. You'll lose them during Hell Week, and you might have a few other injured guys roll into your class after Hell Week. But Hell Week is the brutal crucible that all SEALs share that very few students successfully navigate. It starts on a Sunday evening, ends on a Friday afternoon. You get about 2 hours of total sleep the entire week. You run the equivalent of multiple marathons while wet and sandy. Swim dozens of miles in the open, frigid ocean. I was a winter Hell Week, so the water temperatures were in the 50s. And they basically keep you cold, wet, and hypothermic the entire week. You've got broken bones, fractures, flesh-eating bacteria, joint injuries, overuse injuries. You're sick. So it's a good time, Brad. I
makes COVID look like a walk in the park.
Yes, it does. Yes, it does. But again, it's designed to. I mean, it's a wonderful social experiment to see what types of people go into it and the types of people that come out of it. And typically, that group of guys that you continue on with and graduate with are not initially what you would select. If you were to try to select who are the guys that are going to make it in this group of 200 that are beginning, you would probably be wrong almost every single time about who those people are. They're not the biggest, scariest looking dudes or the guys who act all tough and macho all the time or even Olympic athletes necessarily. Again, fitness is paramount. And mental toughness is paramount, but that comes over time as you go through these these experiences. But it's when we've invested millions of dollars and years in research trying to think about it from a sales funnel, so to speak. We need to graduate more SEALs, right? Because we need more SEALs. We can't make the training easier. If anything, it's probably technically getting harder and harder over the years and more competitive. So we need to fill the top of the funnel with better leads, right? Therefore, that's one of the reasons we've been a little bit more purposeful in lifting the veil of secrecy and allowing books and movies and more intentional talent acquisition strategies and marketing efforts and branding efforts. So, the guys coming in know what they're getting into. And so we can open up the possibility to a wider array of people so they understand, who our community is, what we're all about, and what we do. But we still, it's not the narrative. The research doesn't show the narrative you would imagine of star athletes and intellectual prowess and all those things. You get that, but it's passion, it's grit, it's resilience. It's a deep, deep, deep desire to serve as a SEAL, not just serve in the military.
That's it right there.
But to serve as a SEAL.
That's it right there. That's it right there. I mean, you have to want to be a SEAL more than you want to deal with this nonsense.
Right.
Because it's ultimately a mindset. Like, I imagine there may have been people in the past that couldn't physically keep up because they were just not conditioned. But I bet you there's buff ass some bitches come through there and they give up because they're like, dude, screw it. It's not worth it. It's not worth it.
Right.
So like that mindset, when applied to business, is the difference between a company staying in business and not staying in business.
100%. And think about obviously 2020 is an easy example because we've had a lot of both businesses, large and small, either suffer or fail because oftentimes, and unfortunately sometimes, as you know, this lack of passion, that lack of vision, it resides at the top of the organization. So as you can imagine, the detrimental effect that would have on a company, on a team, where the people at the top, or the most senior people, so to speak, are actually the ones who kind of lack the vision, lack the true passion for what they're trying to accomplish. Therefore, there is no infectious emotional connection if the people at the top do not feel that as well. And it's whether it's SEAL training, the ups and downs of the business battlefield and entrepreneurship. I've been through all of them. I made all the mistakes. It's really having that really, really deep desire to keep forging ahead, to adapt, to innovate, to find a new path and course correct. And if you're not willing to do that, you ultimately won't be successful, whatever your definition of that is.
Period. Now you go through Hell Week, you eventually graduate. Everybody else gave up. There's a fraction of the people that came in that actually graduate. Once you graduate, don't they like jam your trident into your chest with some spikes?
Technically, Brad, that's not allowed anymore. But yes, so
they still do it though.
Oh yeah, we just do it. We do it behind closed doors.
Yeah. So now, boom, you're a badass. When do you start learning how to kill and all that? Is that in SEAL training? The learning how to freaking snipe out of helicopters and shit, or is that after?
It's a good question because SEAL training has evolved immensely over the years. The training pipeline keeps getting a little bit longer and a little bit longer. We come in now very qualled up, a lot of qualifications. Now they do free fall school and advanced training. Hell, I wouldn't be surprised if they offer sniper school during advanced training before you become a SEAL and get your trident. Because, we've been at war for 2 decades. We have to have the guys be able to hit the ground running. Back in the day, you would just go through 6 months of buds getting your ass handed to you. And then you would learn how to be a SEAL once you got to 18. You learn obviously basics of shooting and land warfare and close quarters combat, but not like we do now. But then, people assume that, SEALs are just downrange, killing enemy all the time. We spend 70% of our time, 75% of our time training in a constant state of improvement and course correction, bringing lessons back from the battlefield and shifting how we do and the resources we invest in. And then when we are in deployment, if you're not operating, eating, or sleeping, you're also training. You're rehearsing missions. You're rehearsing close quarters combat skills. You're on the range. You're working out. You're constantly trying to improve both the individuals and the team. And that's what makes it a really interesting culture, is because nobody's ever satisfied with where their certain level of skill is. So when you're in a platoon, there's various segments of that 18 months typically that you'll be training in before you deploy for around 6 months. And that 18 months has you go to professional development. So guys are going off to sniper school, language schools, everything from learning how to fix an outboard motor to driving schools and advanced breaching schools and explosive and demo schools. So not everybody in a platoon or a troop is going to have the exact same skill set. You're going to have your snipers who've gone to sniper school. You have your breachers who are your, masters of explosives, your language experts, and things like that.
Which one within the SEAL groups does everyone knows the baddest son-bitch walking?
Probably the one who's been in the longest and has been to all those schools. But at the end of the day, you learn the most by the application of those skills in a real combat scenario. And that's what we've been doing for a long, long time. And now obviously combat veterans are training our new SEALs. Whereas I was trained by, peacetime SEALs. Still great training, but it's not the same with what were the applications that we're bringing back from the battlefield to shift our tactics, our strategies, and how we train.
Yeah, you seem like a very, very, very learned SEAL. I think I met him with you. I met old Ray. He was throwing salt in his eye with some lime, and I'm thinking, that's a all out freaking. That's the dude you're gonna throw into Iraq and say, go get him.
I love Ray. He's awesome.
If they called you, hey Brent, if they called you right now and said, dude, we need you to suit up, get some gear. We're sending you into Iraq, and we need you to go in and rescue a freaking hostage. Are you still ready to rock and roll?
I think I could pick up where I left off, Brad, but that's not to say my back wouldn't hurt immediately and my wife would be pissed.
But I mean, you could immediately get on comms and start directing shit and go in there and tear shit up.
Probably not to the same level of efficiency as these guys training day in and day out, constantly as part of their career. But and little nuances of tactics and things like that have evolved. But you could definitely, having been that well trained for that long, you can definitely pick those things back up really quickly.
Dude, when people think of Navy SEALs, they're thinking they're thinking automatically. When you think Navy SEAL, you think, knife, wetsuits, machine guns, covered faces, and badass, just kick-ass freaking movie type shit. Is that how it is in real life or no?
Not really. Not really. I mean, and kind of going back to the training, it's interesting to see the guys who do come through the pipeline. We have, extremely highly educated people, people from very diverse cultural backgrounds. I know you see SEALs, you're like, oh, they're a bunch of 6 foot tall white guys. it's actually a very diverse group of individuals. We got guys coming from, billionaire families from Texas, and people who have extremely high degrees of education. Here's an interesting data point. 75%, obviously in the military, you're enlisted, and then you have your officers who've either gone to, college or officer candidacy school, et cetera. 75% of our enlisted SEALs have at minimum an undergrad degree. Because we're seeing the younger guys right out of high school don't have quite a high success rate. It's not quite old enough, not enough emotional maturity, not enough life experience in general to handle the stress and the anxiety. And therefore we get guys who've already been to college, or like me, college and then working in corporate America and then going in. It's actually really common these days. And also guys just taking a longer time to prepare because they know it's necessary. So it's a very interesting group of people from a diversity standpoint, but also a lot of highly educated individuals. But then again, you get your your badass knuckle dragon tattoo covered pipe hitters as well, or usually a blend thereof.
Now, when you went in, you said 911 just went down, 9/11.
Yeah.
Now on 9/11, if you were already in, was there some sort of freaking killer patriotic freaking energy going on amongst the fellas, or what?
Oh yeah. And again, that's not to sound, macho or make light of, that horrible event, but the switch flipped.
Dude. I mean, even if you weren't in the military, Brent, like that, just the whole world was patriotic. They felt like coming together and whooping some ass.
Yeah, it really was an interesting transformation. We had just finished BUDS. We had, I think, 4 or 5 days off between BUDS and starting advanced training, which is called SQT, or SEAL Qualification Training, which is another 7 or 8 months of where you're really, really learning the tactics of naval special warfare. But between that week off, I remember I was up at USC visiting a friend of mine. And that's when 9/11 occurred. So those few days, like 2 days right before my class started advanced training. And they didn't, we already had people downrange. We already have cycles. So it's not like we were getting, beepers going off, getting recalled back to the command, but it definitely changed the entire mindset of everybody in the community, everybody in the military, everybody in the world. as to what our training meant now, and knowing that we would be going down range to take the fight to the enemy, and soon. And then I went to SEAL Team 5, and actually our task unit from 5 was the very first task unit deployed into Iraq in April of 2003, soon after the city fell of Baghdad. And so we were there. A troop's usually about 40 SEALs, a lot of support elements. We were there running what we call capture or kill missions. So basically hunting down guys on the deck of cards, or blacklist, other various insurgent faction leaders. The op tempo was super high, like no infrastructure whatsoever. We were living in bombed out palaces. It's pretty wild.
Dude, see, bombed out palaces. Now, if you came across a solid gold watch or something, were you allowed just to keep it as a spoils of war, or would you get in trouble for that?
First of all, that shit was long gone by the time we even got there. The army had rolled through there already. So now every now and then we were living on that deployment. We were living at one of the palaces. So it's a lot of mix of different, coalition forces and whatnot. We were living with Polish special operators and worked a lot with them, called the Polish Grom, super badass warriors. But every now and then you come across stuff like that, but you are not supposed to partake in the spoils of war.
Now, you said the army rolled through there before you guys. So when we go into a country, like, how does it happen? Does the Marines really go in first, and then the Army comes through, and then the Navy and the Air Force clean up and do the high level intelligent mission type shit, or how does it work?
Yeah, it's obviously an evolution. The way that specifically went down back in 2003 was we had obviously bombs in the air, and we were going to obviously soften the areas of Baghdad with
So that's Navy. Are those Navy fighter pilots, or are those Air Force? Who's bombing?
It can be a mix. It could be Air Force, typically Army, Navy.
Yeah. So when they say Marines go in first, they don't go in first anymore, do they? I bet you we send in drones first, don't we?
The advancements of technology. Yeah, I mean, we want to keep obviously even our best fighters out of harm's way as much as possible if we can lean on technology for that. But basically, we had SEALs securing the Afar Peninsula and the gas platforms. Not that anything had to do anything with oil, but we wanted to make sure that the oil platforms were secure. So we had the SEALs doing that, and then conventional forces from Afar Peninsula pushed north, Army, Marines, and some SEAls rode with them to Baghdad. So,
dude, in your opinion, how advanced is our shit? Like, is our military badass as everyone hopes it is or thinks it is, or did it get deteriorated in the last 10 years?
Wow, that's a good question. I guess there's sort of two ways you could answer that. One, obviously, there's been a massive transformation and evolution, and the culture and the technology and the structure of not just the special operations community, but the military in general. I think we're just doing it smarter. That's all. Like, drones are smarter than soldiers. Like, not like physically, but like, you send the drones in, and if those get dicked up, then send in the soldiers. Like, to me now, soldiers are last resort. That's all. Yeah. It's a not to be cliche, but it's a smarter, not harder type of philosophy. Now, obviously, there are things we have to do if we're going into, capture a bad guy or kill a bad guy, whatever. That will, especially a capture mission where you're ideally wanting to take these guys alive so they can be interrogated, so you can gather more intelligence. That requires boots on the ground. It requires, SEALs, Delta operators, tier 1, special operations forces. Well, we hear of laser ability. Like, I hear, oh, dude, the U.S. government's got the ability to literally shoot a laser out of the sky and blast your forehead wide open while you're sitting having dinner with frickin' Saddam Hussein. Is that true? I guess it depends on your pay grade. I'm sure we have far more advanced technology that I'm even aware of. Usually by the time people like us see it, it's already been around for 10 years. Yeah, like, dude, around here, they were saying storm Area 51. And they kept saying, well, they can't kill us all. And I'm thinking, yes, they can. Oh, yes, they can. Oh, yes, they can. And not only that, they will. I highly suggest you do not storm the area. Because, dude, I think people underestimate the technology that we have access to. I mean, I think there's drones that are equipped with bombs that literally can be flown into a crowded mall, onto somebody's particular forehead, and pop their head. Oh yeah, we have all types of stuff that like I said, by the time the general public is aware of it. It's been around for a long time, and there's something way sexier and cooler out there.
Now,
more advanced.
did you ever have to go and actually pull triggers? Did you get
yeah.
anybody? Did you get any pink mist?
Yep.
Is it red mist or pink mist? What do they call it when they actually have to pop someone's head?
That's actually funny. I was texting with a buddy of mine yesterday, and I said something about red mist, and he replied pink mist. And I was like, so I guess you could go either way. For those of you listening who don't know what we're talking about, it's when someone takes a round and there's, a spray of blood in the air. That's called pink mist or red mist.
Now, see, I probably would have been an excellent sniper in the war, because I feel like maybe it's too much Call of Duty, but I feel like if I'm over there on a building and I've got, a town, or I'm guarding some sort of, troop down there doing something, and I'm up there, what's it called? Watchtower or something like that. Overwatch. Yeah. If I'm providing cover, Overwatch, dude, I don't care who it is. I don't care if it's a little 5-year-old boy walking towards you guys. If I know that we are in a hostile environment and I see a nun and a 5-year-old boy walking towards my guys on the ground, I'm going to be on the microphone quick. And if anybody down there feels nervous or threatened, I'm going to pink mist them both.
Yeah, well, in all seriousness, that has been, that type of decision has plagued special operations since the beginning of special operations. And I mean, going back hundreds and hundreds of years.
Well, because guess what? It's war, though. It's war, guys.
Yeah.
Just like in business, man. In business, sometimes you don't want to fire your friend. You don't want to get rid of your cousin. And at the end of the day, I'm trying to make the alignment that if you're out there running a business and you're trying to create a culture and a team, which is required in the Navy SEALs, because otherwise people die. You go in there and you are a team of people. So how do you apply the Navy SEAL, camaraderie, the Navy SEAL or any military operation or outfit, like any high, especially the elite fighting forces? But how do you get that camaraderie in a company where people will kill for you, and if you don't do your job, it's almost life or death. How do you apply that and get that culture going in your company?
It's one interesting way to look at it is kind of falls under motivation theory. And there's been a lot of research shown that there's really 3 things that drive motivation with employees in an organization. And without understanding these and knowing how to apply them and apply them differently to different people, that's where we as leaders and managers fall short of keeping our team members engaged. So before I talk about the theory, when I say engagement, obviously there's 3 types of team members in a company. There's engaged. So those we would say those in the SEAL teams, all in all the time. They go above and beyond. They take on roles, responsibilities outside of their job description. And they really, really believe in the company's mission and what they're trying to accomplish. And they know intimately how their job function drives mission success. Just like I would know exactly how my job function as a SEAL drives mission success on the battlefield. Same thing has to apply within a high-performing business organization. And then the other 2 types of employees are disengaged. They're kind of in the middle. Not necessarily bad, not necessarily good, kind of more of the bare minimum. They kind of sit back, wait and see. They collect a paycheck. They do their job, but they don't really go above and beyond. And then you have your actively disengaged, and we've all worked with these people. These are the assholes who are actually working against the company, and the agitators, and the people who create a toxic environment. And the challenge with those folks are oftentimes they have a voice because of tenure or subject matter expertise or all of the above. But understanding within those 3 subsets of employees with a company, there's 3 things that really motivate people. One is autonomy. So we talked a little bit about that earlier, like the autonomy to make decisions, the autonomy to be creative and innovate, as long as your activities and functions are aligned with what the organization is trying to accomplish. So autonomy in decision-making, autonomy in activity, and autonomy in the how of achieving a specific goal, the execution of a specific project. That's why we as leaders need to kind of provide the goal and the resources, and then let them identify the how. The other one is mastery. So, and that's just in any walk of life. We just as people are very satisfied by getting better at things, whether it's a sport, a hobby, business success, your relationship, basically anything that we are passionate about, or goals that we attempt to pursue, that we believe in, that align with our values, et cetera. We want to get better at stuff. That's why people play musical instruments. That's why people focus on their fitness and continually improving their health or their strength. And then the third piece, you have autonomy, mastery, and then purpose. It kind of goes back to what we were talking about before, Brad, is the guys who make it through SEAL training. They believe in the purpose. They are connected intimately to the purpose. They emotionally connect to it. So understanding those three things, autonomy, mastery, and purpose, really gives us the opportunity to create better engagement, create better performance. We talk about, the service profit chain. Well, what makes a business profitable? We'll ask our executives in our programs this, and you get all these different types of answers. Well, it kind of goes in a succession. Well, profitability is the number one way you create profitability is by repeat customers. You know that more than anybody. We were just talking about this before we started. Repeat business, repeat customers, reoccurring revenue streams. Well, you get repeat customers because of a high quality product or service, right? Well, how do you get a high quality product or service? You get a high quality product or service by highly engaged people doing awesome shit. They love what they do. They're really good at what they do. They believe in what they're making or creating for the customer. And you get that through great leadership. You get that through great engagement strategies and a great culture for the organization. And that's why we oftentimes miss the mark in understanding that culture, people practices, and those behavioral developments 100% drive profitability. It's not just sales, it's not just operations or recapitalizing the business. It's the behavioral elements of an organization are what drives sustainability, growth, and profitability.
Now, repeat customer service is profitability. Give me the number. What would you say the second one was?
So repeat customers is the number one.
That's
driver.
The number one. Did you give me a number two or no?
Yeah. And then next it kind of goes in a succession. So how do you get repeat customers? You get that obviously through a very, very high quality product and service.
Yeah, kicking ass.
Yeah, you're kicking ass. And you get that by employees who are kicking ass.
Got it. And it's very interesting that you say there's three things that motivate people. First of all, the autonomy, the freedom, almost the responsibility is invigorating to some people.
Right.
You got the mastery, which is when you get really good at something, you feel better. You're motivated to kick some ass.
Yep. And
your purpose, which again, all point to that engaged type of employee or team member. So if I've got a team and I've got, 80% engaged, 20% disengaged, I'm in decent shape, I bet. But if I've got 20% engaged and 80% disengaged or the third one, bad apple, what'd you call them? Actively disengaged?
Yeah.
Yeah. If you got 80% those, how do you fix that? And how dangerous is that?
Well, it's interesting you said, if you have 80% engagement in your organization, you're killing it. You're crushing everybody. You're beating the competition. The norm, and this isn't just my opinion or experience, this is from data from Deloitte, McKinsey, et cetera. The average in even a well-run organization is about 35% engagement. The bulk of the people being what you call the disengaged. They're kind of, they do okay, but they're not all in.
Now, what if you could identify, what if you had a tool where you could
and then the actively disengaged, more typically than not, have to be removed. Oh, you can. A lot of it's as simple as just survey mechanisms and other types of interview processes to identify what level of engagement you have in an organization. We do a lot of engagement surveys, and you can quickly find out what those levels of engagement are in any organization.
Well, seeing as how you have a virtual training system, by the way, if anyone's listening and you guys want to, turn your company around, I would call Taking Point number one, because you have consultation and you have all kinds of services. But one of the things you have is a VT. Now, the virtual training system obviously could put Brent Gleason on your staff 24/7, working with your leaders, et cetera, et cetera. But more importantly, Brent, what if I showed you how to use that VT to identify disengaged, actively disengaged employees at an organization? Would that have any value to your customers?
Oh my God. Yeah.
Okay. So check this out.
Value. And better than just a survey. Because, surveys.
No. Watch this. You tell me if this is legit. Watch. I'm a company. I call my whole company into a meeting and I say, folks, I love you guys to death. And I'm paraphrasing. Folks, I love you guys to death. I'm so happy that we're a team and a fam, and I'm sure glad you're all here. Now, I've just provided to you this virtual training system that has all of the knowledge to get you better people, better husbands, better wives, better employees, better to our customers, and more, and promoted. This is how you get paid more. So it's all yours. Go ahead and log in. And it's 100% my gift to you because I love you and I want you to be better. And I'm sure you want the company to be better. So go ahead, tear it up. Now you walk out of that office. That's all you say. And a week later, you press a button. Anyone who didn't partake in that cornucopia of knowledge is somewhat disengaged and perhaps even actively disengaged.
100%.
But anybody engaged would take part in that offer.
Absolutely.
So literally, dude, you can show any company how to identify them in one fell swoop.
Right.
Hey, look, this makes you better and it makes us stronger. Please take part in it. And then one button later, it tells you who didn't take part in it. Well, those are your problems. Those are at least the ones you need to investigate.
100%. 100%. Anytime you provide development opportunities to employees, it is very interesting. I would say the most interesting thing about a 360 review or an engagement survey is who freaking takes the survey. The rest of the people who just ignore it are definitely disengaged because they don't care or they don't believe that anything good is going to come from it because of failed attempts in the past, that kind of thing.
Yeah, but Brent, you've heard of like testing things. So like, for example, if Taking Point made a module, put it in your VT system, and literally as people logged in to get this cornucopia of knowledge, you pop up and say, this was a test to see if you were engaged. Thank you very much for logging in. There's not really any of this in here. However, we did identify that you're one of the good guys. Now, if they don't log in, they never knew it said that.
Right.
So at the end of the day,
I'm in.
Well, the end of the day is how do we create a mechanism? Because again, if I were a leadership company like yours, and not only that, dude, the size of companies you're dealing with, you go in there and say, look, if I can identify these people in 1 week, what would that be worth to you? They're like, oh, that'd be worth an unbelievable amount of money. Okay, good. We're going to make this offer in one general meeting and we're going to press a button a week later and they will be identified.
Right. Yeah.
You don't even have to make the content. You just have to do the test.
Yeah. No, you're talking about a very simple but highly impactful data point. Like you said, just that one data point helps leaders and managers identify, what they have to work with. They can run off in all different directions saying we're going to do this or invest in this type of development or this training, but if they don't really know what they're working with or what the foundation is, then they're going to waste a ton of time and money.
Or they're not willing to do anything about it. Because there's companies out there that you can tell them that person right there is not your friend in this company. And I need Jim. Jim's been here for 5 years. If I get rid of Jim, I'm screwed.
Right.
Yeah, but Jim's walking around here shitting in people's oatmeal and literally causing problems all around your company. Yeah, but dude, like find me another Jim and I'd consider getting rid of him. But if I got no Jim, it's almost like, dude, what's more valuable? A great culture or an individual?
Oh, I can't tell you how many times I've made the mistake of hanging on to a Jim for far too long because he was the subject matter expert or our best analytics person, totally irreplaceable. Well, as we all know, everybody's replaceable. But if those people are creating a toxic environment of the company, one, they're not just creating toxicity and distracting people from what they need to get done to achieve mission success. They're damaging trust because Brent Gleason, the leader, isn't doing anything about it. So I'm damaging trust by not addressing those people or removing the gyms of the world, or sometimes even the customer. You got gyms as customers too, who are treating your team like garbage. They're sucking all your utilization. Therefore, you're probably not even making money on them. Yet you think they're the biggest account. I've made that mistake before too. But when you get rid of the gym or you fire that customer that's damaging the organization, only good things happen. More profit comes in, higher levels of morale soar in the organization. And then occasionally be like, well, why didn't you do that a year ago? But you
what if you don't have the balls? What if you're one of those people that just feel bad for people? How do you shift your mind into where you think firing them is a good thing?
Well, that's why they have the term, the burden of command. If you desire to be a leader of people, sorry. There's tough decisions that have to be made. And if you can't make tough decisions, you're not a true leader. It's just, it's not always fun. But at the end of the day, leadership, successful leadership isn't about doing great things when things are rosy and sales are through the roof and profit is soaring. It's the 2020s of the world. It's the tough conversations you have to have, the really, really hard decisions you have to make. Obviously, the application of that philosophy is easily seen on the literal battlefield.
Like firing your cousin.
Well, yeah, I was going to say the battlefield when when I'm pinned down by enemy fire and I've got 3 choices and they all suck. Yet I got to choose one of them. Do we storm the building and clear up towards the enemy shooting at us? Do we run the opposite direction, open, through an open field getting shot at, or do we stay put and potentially get killed where we're here? Now, going back into business, yeah, you got to fire your cousin sometimes. You got to fire your best friend sometimes. I mean, I've had business partners. My business partner previously, I was never a big proponent of this for the very reasons we already talked about, but he was very much a believer in hiring his buddies. Let me tell you how often that worked out. 0. It worked out 0 times.
It is fun though. I mean, you wish you could do that.
You wish you could. You wish you could. And it could be okay, but typically
only if your buddies are high level people.
Well, yeah, exactly. If they're performers and they don't need to be micromanaged, not that we should have to micromanage anybody. If we're going to build a great culture and a great team, you want to bring people in who are going to kick ass for you and who believe in what we're doing here. Not just, oh, we went to college together and he needs a job and well, we'll find a spot for him. Well, that has never worked out. We'll find a spot for him because clearly there's no identification of what value they're going to bring to the organization. And usually, those situations, in my experience, never work out.
Well, it would be the same as putting a breacher in Overwatch position. They might do fine, but they're not going to do as good as someone that was designed to be there, trained and designed and prepared to be there.
Yeah, or get your comms guy who's not a SEAL, but he's a support comms guy for the team and put him in breach of doors or put him up in the Overwatch position. He probably could shoot a weapon because he's in the military, but yeah, not going to be your high performer who's going to actually take the team to the next level. Now, the problem is we always hang on to those people way too long. When we know in our gut, they got to be removed.
Yeah, but a SEAL team wouldn't. So again, if you were running a SEAL team and you knew your comms guy was that dude in Overwatch, you'd stop the mission. You'd say, hey, wait a minute, this is that important.
Yeah, you would hopefully plan better in the first place. Maybe there was a resource allocation issue there and you had to make, one of those 3 bad choices, but you had to make a choice. But again, that's why we live, we learn. And that's why one of the other really, really great takeaways that's a huge accountability mechanism is how we conduct after action reviews, or in business, we'd call it a debrief or a post-mortem. A lot of companies and teams say they do it or they think they do it, but they don't know how to do it well. They don't know how to extract really actionable insights. So when you're on the battlefield of business or the literal battlefield and you make one of those 3 crappy choices, maybe things turn out well, maybe things turn out even worse, but you debrief it, you take the lessons learned and you apply it to training, you apply it to preparation, you make sure you don't keep making the same mistakes over and over again. We teach a lot of our the organizations we work with how to do a proper debrief or after action review, whether it be, at the end of the year or a quarter or the finalization of a sale or a project, or it could be something big, something small, but you always got to debrief. And debriefing wins too. We always assume we got to debrief the catastrophic loss or the deal that didn't close, that we worked on for 6 months or yada, yada, yada. Well, it's good to debrief the win too. Wow, we crushed it. We exceeded the goal. We exceeded the profitability target. EBITDA was through the roof when we thought it was going to be okay. Well, let's talk about that. Why was that the case? What can we learn from the wins just as much as the losses?
So if I'm listening to this, I'm like, damn, dude, how do I learn to make tough decisions? Is there a technique that where you like, again, dude, if there's gunfire over my head, do I freeze? Do I save my daughter from drowning? I mean, these life and death thing, I think everyone always assumes, well, I just do this and that. But when it's not life and death, like, how do we make these tough decisions? How do you know when to stop the nonsense and fire your cousin?
Yeah, it's a good question. One of my new book is really about resilience and being intentional in how you expand your comfort zone. So, one way I could look at that question is one of the chapters is titled "Do Something That Sucks Every Day," meaning I have specific goals for my personal life. I have specific goals for my career, goals for my relationships. Well, anything worth doing is not only worth overdoing, but anything worthwhile, fulfilling, and meaningful in our lives, as you know, is going to have some adversity associated with the accomplishment of that goal. There are going to be parts of achieving that goal that make you cringe, that make you uncomfortable. That's why we say in the SEAL teams, you have to learn to get comfortable being uncomfortable.
Yep.
And that's the intention of comfort zone expansion. And the more you intentionally practice that by doing things that you're not good at, or practicing the things about leadership or business that you don't really like, well, the more you do, like you said before, you get better at those things, you get more confident, more comfortable, and then you move the goalposts and you do it again. So I talk in the book about, being better planning, better execution, better debriefing. But when you're planning, just like any good mission plan, obviously you're going to have a clear and concise objective, or a SMART goal, or whatever you want to call it. You're going to have a list of resources that you have or need to acquire to accomplish that mission. And then the next phase of proper planning is identifying the threats and blockages that stand in your way of achieving that goal, of achieving mission success, whether it be in business or the battlefield or in a relationship, whatever they are. And within that list of blockages and threats, there's probably a lot of things that you don't like about them, or that makes you uncomfortable, that makes you cringe, but that are necessary evils for achieving that goal. For me, for example, I'm a both student and teacher of leadership, but I'm not perfect by any means. One of the things that is interesting, like on the battlefield, I'll run to the sound of gunfire. I'll charge the room. But in business and entrepreneurship, I've found over the years, I've gotten better, but that I'm not that great at conflict resolution. I don't like having the difficult conversations with the angry customer, or the upset employee, or the cousin that I know that I need to fire. That shit goes on my to-do list, and it goes to the next day, and the next day, and then it's next week, and I haven't addressed the issue. And when we don't address issues that are necessary, obviously they don't get better, do they? They just get worse, and create a cancer that's just a bigger, more uncomfortable problem next time. So in light of doing things that suck, that are required of me to achieve certain goals in life and work, I have things that I know I'm not good at, but so because I'm not good at them, or I don't like them, or they make me uncomfortable, I make a point to do them more often than I do the things that I do like.
Now, if I'm a company listening to this and I got deep pockets, I can call Taking Point and have you come in and almost train me and my team to install all of these processes and disciplines into my company, correct?
Yes. Usually our engagements with organizations, usually we're a good to great type of consultative partner. We're not a turnaround company, although we can do that. But typically we go in organizations who are doing pretty well, but help them move the needle to improve their leadership ability at mid and senior levels, to identify high performers, the highly engaged people that can move up and have upward mobility in the organization. So not just leadership, but engagement strategies, culture transformation, implementation of better operating models to create more efficiency, all of the things that are paramount in continuing to grow a business or take that business to the next level, sort of that, Marshall Goldsmith's "what got you here won't get you there" philosophy of being in a constant state of development, constant state of continuous improvement. So usually what we come in and do, it's based on a needs analysis, but we're going to come in and customize something. I know everybody says that, but we're going to come in and customize a program based on what the organization is trying to accomplish, and making sure that we could tie all those activities back to greater efficiency, employee retention, customer retention, and profitability.
Now, out of all the people listening, I'm telling you, there's, surprisingly to me, a long time ago, I figured out, I've got people in the bomb squad that are very successful. I've got lawyers, doctors, entrepreneurs, blue collar, white collar, and, that's not going to be cheap if they're listening. If you're listening, and, that's obviously going to cost you some money. There's human beings that walk in there and help you not turn around, but go from good to great. But what about, like, if they're just getting started? They are the startups. They just buy your book? I mean, well, your VT's coming soon. They can get your VT.
Yeah, technology is a great way, and I know you know this, but technology, the VT, is a great way to very cost effectively provide at least a certain level of training and of development.
Get them up
of people.
to speed.
Well, and get them up to speed, and just as by creating a platform like this, kind of going back to what we talked about before, just the activity of investing in our people, whether it's a large investment or a more cost-effective investment through technology, that act alone improves their morale. It improves their engagement, because they're like, the company cares about me. They care about my development. Going back to mastery and autonomy, They want to know they're being invested in. Otherwise, they're going to go somewhere else because they want to develop in their career, most of them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, because I mean, I know there's people listening. It's like, if they got the money, dude, you know, and you want to squeeze this freaking berry to another level of degree, you can afford to do it. But dude, there's more people that are struggling, especially with the COVID. They're struggling. They're thinking, well, dude, I'd love to get old Brent in here and get this shit dialed in. But guess what? They don't have, you know, that kind of dough. So I want to leave them with something like the podcast. If you're listening, you dropped so much bombs that for free, they can make an improvement. You can get the book if you want to go a little bit deeper. You get the virtual training, which is like having him on demand, you and your staff on demand for you and your staff, but at a fraction of the live. And then if you can afford it and you want it done for you, basically, or with you, you know, then step up and hire the actual consulting. But to me, dude, you got the whole gamut covered. Anybody else that doesn't do something about it, I think, is ultimately just making excuses to where they can actually fulfill their idea of failure, meaning their mindset is something's not going to. Have you ever met the people that, like, they're just self-saboteurs?
No, I just made a mental note of what you're saying, fulfilling their idea of failure. That was great, because yes, I mean, there's people out there who are, it's just a constant cycle of self-fulfilling prophecy. I actually talk about the 8 failure realities in my new book. So it's interesting you mentioned that.
Well, dude, I'm going to go order your new book. I suggest everybody else do too. But listen, I'm a realist. I know there's people listening that are going to reach out to you, and you're going to get business to help them with their organization just based on what you've said and what's available. But not everyone can afford that.
Right.
So I'm like thinking, well, how do people get out of their own way? And then I made the comment, because there's a lot of people that, dude, you're not going to get out of your own way, because you're literally causing your own failure. There's self-saboteurs, and I don't know how to help people that can't help themselves. Have you discovered that yet?
Just have them watch David Goggins' videos on Instagram. No, I mentioned David because he wrote the foreword for my new book. That's kind of a real gut punch to kick off a philosophy around comfort zone expansion.
Well, dude, Goggins' message in a nutshell, I'm paraphrasing, basically is quit being a fucking pussy and just do it.
Yeah, I think it's more complex for most people out there. But,
so do I.
But
like, dude, I could never teach leadership. Like, in my mind, I'm thinking, I don't teach leadership. I can teach sales. Leadership goes way beyond that alone. In and of itself, that negative self-thought is what stops people from doing shit.
Right.
Now, when you go into the freaking Navy SEALs, dude, they either beat that out of you or you make the decision because of your passion, etc. But what if you're just a normal Joe, Brent? Like, what could I do tomorrow? What kind of tactical shit can I do tomorrow for the next 30 days, and which will maybe get me to the level where, hey, you know what? Maybe I can do some shit.
Yeah, it's funny because it made me think about, one of the videos I show that came from a Discovery Channel documentary in a lot of my keynote presentations, and you hear the instructor saying to the student, the bud student who's wet and sandy and miserable, he's like, winning here is a conscious decision. We forget that winning in life or winning in business, in large part, I know it's obviously more complex than that, but in large part is a decision, pushing when I made the obvious transition from financial analyst to SEAL, obviously to achieve a lofty goal, and this is segueing into answering your question, I had to have a plan, a real plan. I mean, SEAL training can have upwards of a 90% failure rate. Those aren't good odds. And when you fail, you're not going home. You're not going back to your old job. You're stuck in the Navy. You will be down a different path that you wanted, which is why obviously planning and preparation are so critically important. But if somebody wants to just go out there and start the transformation process of their lives, I mean, I think really it starts with changing the narrative in our minds about what true adversity is, what the things we aren't really all that good at, why we can't have meaningful relationships, why we can't close enough sales at the job that we kind of like, why have 2 startups failed and it seems that I'm not really developing as an entrepreneur. It's because we're not paying attention and we're not building better plans. We're not taking stock of the successes and failures, the after action review process, so to speak, applying lessons learned and being in a constant state of improvement. And that requires constant learning, constant reading, listening to podcasts like yours, and thinking with personal development in mind, never being satisfied with the status quo. I kind of joke in the book that, would anybody ever tell themselves they're satisfied with mediocrity? The answer actually is yes. Some people would say that they're satisfied with mediocrity. I don't think they would really believe it. I think they would be fooling themselves. But the simplest way, the next 30 days, you want to transform your life or achieve a specific goal, or again, do something that sucks, that makes you uncomfortable, that you have to get better at to develop a plan. Develop a concise, clear objective that you can emotionally connect to, that gets you excited. I always use fitness as because it's such an easy, tangible way to look at having a better plan. Well, you've been talking about running that damn marathon for 5 years now. Well, how come you haven't fucking done it? You've been talking about getting out of this horribly damaging relationship for 2 years now. How come you haven't done it? Because you fear change and you fear the pain and suffering that will come from getting out of the relationship, or pushing your mind and body harder than you ever have to run that marathon or that ultra marathon or whatever it is. You want to do that goal, but you're not willing to accept the pain and adversity that will come with it. But the more you do and have a better plan, that's what I say in the book, is like embracing the suck is a lot easier when you have a solid plan. You know what resources you need to accomplish the goal. You know what stands in your way. You have lessons learned from life that you could apply to that plan. You red team that plan, have a mentor, a coach, someone like you look at the plan and be like, have you thought of this? Have you thought of this? Poke holes in it, develop contingencies, and then violently execute. I know we're coming up on the end of the year, and one of the things I always say is like, New Year's resolutions are for losers. It's about lifestyle choices, about making lifestyle changes. Now, end of the year, it's January 1st. I'm going to do some new stuff. What are you talking about? It makes no sense to me. It's about constantly evolving your life. And when people do that, the fear dissipates. They have a life of meaning, of maybe even giving back more of themselves to causes greater than themselves. And they're happier. They're just generally happier because they've embraced the fear. They've gotten more comfortable being uncomfortable.
And I would imagine that book coming up, which everyone should go pre-order right now on Amazon or wherever you buy books. Embrace the suck is literally probably going to, help you figure out how to find something uncomfortable, get good at being uncomfortable or embracing the suck. And that's literally one of the key things to, I think, success in any area.
Yep.
Discipline. And discipline sucks sometimes. That's the suck. It's discipline. It's the pain. It's the, I don't want to.
Right.
Well, so what?
Do it anyway.
Do it anyway. Like, you make a decision when it boils down to it. You make a decision. I'm going to get this no matter what. Okay. Well, now you'll graduate a Navy SEAL when you have that attitude.
Yep.
Now, Brent, if you were like, what's your days look like? If you had $1 billion cash right now, what would your normal day look like?
Yeah, if I had $1 billion in the bank, I don't think my day would look any different. And I think a lot of people that have.
What's your day look like then?
A certain level of discipline. Up early. Usually, well, we have little ones too, and a baby on the way. So sleep is a low priority in the Gleason household. So we have I don't know if I told you that we got a new one coming in a couple weeks.
Wow.
So
congrats.
we figured 2020 wasn't chaotic enough. So let's have another human.
So you get up early.
It's and this isn't, this is things I've learned over the years and things I've learned from others and from mentors is, the people who achieve more of the goals they set and have, fulfilling lives and relationships have a very similar routine every single day. And that routine's not different on the weekend. They get up early, they have good sleep habits, they eat clean, they engage in wellness and fitness activities, both for their body and for their mind. And they freaking work hard, but not at the expense of other meaningful things in their life, such as their relationships or their children. We always, talk about, people get that wrong. We got to be disciplined. We got to do this, and this. Well, at what expense are you applying all that discipline to? There's got to be balance as well. So it's, it's up early, clean, healthy, never skip a day of some type of fitness or wellness activity, drink less, love more, and work hard. And people who do that are in my experience, just more fulfilled in general.
But if you have $1 billion, like, would you golf? You wouldn't do anything different? You wouldn't have a yacht sitting off the coast that you could just pop onto?
No. I would be doing all these things on my yacht, Brad. I would be remiss to say that I would not indulge a little bit in the pursuit of certain things.
Right.
I am a boat guy, by the way, so I would probably get a bigger boat.
Yeah. So you'd get a bigger boat. So now let me ask the question again. If you had $1 billion cash in the bank, you didn't have to do anything. Everything was taken care of. You have $1 billion in the bank. What would your day look like?
My day would not be all that different. I would obviously invest in things that not just continue to develop that wealth, but obviously that make me happy.
Continue to develop a billion.
Yeah, I mean,
dude,
when is it ever enough?
Once you get to $1 billion, well, once you get to $1 billion, man, you can begin to waste.
That's true. That's a good point.
See, that's why people say, Brad, why do you want to be a billionaire so bad? I'm like, dude, I want to be a billionaire so I can waste money helping other people to where I don't have to be concerned with my own cup because it overfloweth. And so like my day, if I had $1 billion cash, would be consistent of getting up early. I agree with you. I'd go golf or something luxurious. I'd probably get a massage every day. I might even have a masseuse follow me around. But literally throughout the day, I would go and find people to freaking shock with some sort of lottery type life-changing moment. Now imagine, dude, you could literally walk into a mall, find the right people, give them $1 million cash, have it on film, put it on Instagram. Everybody in the world would know who you are because you're the dude walking around giving out billions. Like, dude, if I were Elon Musk, dude, I'd just start dropping millions on people.
Well, in all seriousness, that's one of the things that I always, not to piggyback off that comment, but I'm going to piggyback off it anyway. One of the things that I always said was one of my whys behind getting into entrepreneurship. So having a more direct control over my businesses, my personal wealth, company wealth, that kind of thing, is to have the means to give back. We can give our time. It's important to give our money too. People say, "Oh, you got to give your time." Well, no, you can give your freaking money as well,
especially if you have a shitload of it.
Yeah, exactly. I'm on the board of the Seal Family Foundation. I have been for it's a family resilience nonprofit for naval special warfare. Obviously, support the families of our active and fallen operators. But it's not just about being on the board. People like to say they're on a board of this or they do this charity. It's more of a social thing or a status thing. But no, you got to give your money too, and you can't give your money if you don't have any of it.
Amen.
So I love what you said.
Well, listen, I know I only asked for an hour and it's been over an hour, so I appreciate it. Folks, if you guys want to learn from this gentleman, follow him on Instagram at Brent_Gleeson. That's Gleeson. You can go to takingpoint.com. You can go to what is the speaking one if they want to book you? BrentGleasonSpeaker.com if you want to, book him for an event and or a workshop. Like how many people do you think, Brent, realize the value of actually bringing a company in and helping them? What's the value, real quick, what's the value of employing a coach or someone else?
We call these, and this isn't to sound salesy, but we call these, and the executives and organizations who believe in these types of things and developing their people, these are revenue and profit generating activities. And the organizations that get it and that grow, that have and that do great things in the world, invest significant time and resources into their culture, into their people, and developing those people. The ones that don't are not as big and typically not as profitable.
Now, isn't that crazy? And that's where I was driving. Like the most successful companies are the ones paying you money to come in and help them get to the next level. Companies like that are sitting there thinking, well, I don't need Brent Gleeson to come in here and show me shit.
Yeah.
9 times out of 10, those are the companies that stay small. How important is it that you guys start realizing maybe if you knew how to do it, you'd already be a big company. And if you're not a big company and you want to be one, then figure out who to get you to help. And maybe not Brent Gleeson and his squad, but let me tell you something. Get help somewhere, son. Coaching is massively important for one reason. A coach is going to push you farther than you can push yourself. That's a fact.
Always.
That's a fact. So Brent, I appreciate you coming on board, man. Appreciate you big time.
Thank you, brother. It's been too long. I got to get out to Vegas and we got to get that BT up and running. So I'll give you a call.
Dude, whenever you're ready on that. Listen, thank you for your service. Thank everyone listening that's given their time and effort into our armed forces for their service. And share this out because somebody needs to hear this today. Share it out. Till next time, keep it real.